Y'all said you're going to tailor it. Let's just tailor it now. Had a firearm on his person or within arm's reach, right?
Yes, Your Honor, we charged it both ways.
While, there aren't any attempts, right, on the firearm things while committing the felonies of a crime against or involving another person, or a crime involving some of the drug stuff, right? None of the rest of them apply?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right.
Okay. And then the drug stuff, as I so aptly put it, would be possession or possession with intent to distribute.
Yes.
I guess the easiest thing to do would be just list those again. Possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of marijuana or codeine with intent to distribute, or possession of cocaine.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry, could you give me that list again, Your Honor, that you just
So
read
do
off?
y'all want me to say, while committing a felony, which is a crime involving another person or a crime involving possession with intent to distribute or possession of those particular drugs, and then say, I charge you that certain of those drugs are a controlled substance, or just say, just get to the heart of the matter, which is if you find he did these things, then that would be possession of firearm during this type of felony. And then do I need to say, so my question is, do I say while committing a felony, which is a crime involving or against another person, murder is a felony, which I will define, or which I've defined for you, or do I just say while committing the felonies of murder or possession of these drugs?
I think the latter, Your Honor, is
Yeah,
cleaner.
it is
Yes,
cleaner.
I think so
It's
too.
simpler.
Everybody agrees?
Yeah, I agree with Ms.
Okay. So yes, it would just say, number 3, while committing the felonies of murder, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute, possession of codeine with intent to distribute, possession of cocaine, or possession of cocaine. And that's it. And then for purpose of this offense, a firearm includes any handgun. Do we have rifle, shotgun, taser, or stun? I know we don't have the rest of them. Do we have rifle involved at all? Do we know?
No.
Not for these two counts.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so for purpose of this offense, a firearm includes any handgun, period. All right, we don't need, 2.42.00.
Your Honor, we do. Yes, we do, Your Honor.
We need it tailored to 133, right?
No, unfortunately, no, Your Honor. When we, in looking at the indictment, Your Honor, it looks like for count, for the two counts, count 63 and count 52, while we did charge 133,
Yeah.
it is missing an element. And-
It's missing the indictment is missing an element?
Yes, Your Honor. And so we believe that the language as charged is a 131 charge and
So
not a 133.
what's it missing?
It's missing the crime that they committed while being in possession of the handgun.
So I don't think y'all get a do-over on that right now.
But we believe that the evidence established has the elements
I
of
think it
131.
probably has potentially, but you charged 133. So if you get a do-over to do 106 or whatever it is, then you need to give me law that establishes that.
Okay, we'll get you one more.
Glanville
So,
would not
either
have
it's
done
gonna
this.
be,
Whew.
in my view, 133. or
Look at Shart.
nothing, unless y'all have law to change my mind. But assuming it's 133, I think it's possessed a firearm after having been convicted of a felony involving the use or possession of a firearm. And then I normally would have put blank as a felony involving the use or possession of a firearm. But we'll just hold off on that one until you come up with whatever law you're going to provide.
Shart is taking the jacket off to get ready for the rest of this cross. I do want to, I try to in the background over here, put together what was going on with this count 52 and count 63, as Hilton mentioned. I'm not sure if this error in the indictment applies to both counts. It's just Hilton listed off where 16-11-133 were charged in the indictment, but I did try to compile it. So what was happening there, where Whitaker was like, yeah, you're missing an element. So the state charged 16-11-33. And let's look at count 52, because this one definitely seems like it's missing to me, a layperson. I'm not a lawyer. So Shannon Stillwell, with the offense of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, previously convicted of felony involving the use or possession of a firearm for the said accused. And notice here they're charging OCGA 16-11-133. For the said accused in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia on the 14th day of March 2022, did possess a firearm after having been convicted of felonies involving the use or possession of a firearm in a previous indictment. So this is a different indictment. Now, this is in Superior Court of Fulton County, Georgia, for the offense of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon on the 10th day of March 2016. And then this other indictment also possession of a firearm by convicted felon. So now we're missing, and Hilton agreed that it was missing, and judge was like, yeah, that's missing an element. There's missing this element of what exactly, while this is all going down, what crime was being committed while this individual was in the possession of the firearm. So I see that that's missing here. And this is kind of a huge deal. This is a huge deal. Because remember I was saying yesterday, right? What if the jury are humans, right? Juries are inclined to want a resolution, right? They want to follow the instructions. And the state has done a very confusing, messy job of showing, hey, guns everywhere. There's guns everywhere, right? So if the jurors were like, well, we are not convinced at all that Shannon Stillwell is responsible for the murder of Shamel Drinks. Again, this count is relating to March 14th, 2022, the day of the Shamel Drinks murder. We don't think he did that, but we do think he had a firearm. He was like throwing them out the windows when he was chased later on, blah, 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 blah. They had pictures of it on the table that Viverito ID'd from that screenshot of a video still on Instagram. Well, but you're missing the crime he was committing that's supposed to underlie this. So this is a huge, huge, huge problem for the state, because it is possible that if they put this in front of the jury could say, we don't think he murdered Shamel Drinks, but we think he had a firearm. Well, that's not how this is charged. So there's that there. It's over on X. And I also saw Jim R. say, look at the original indictment. And guys, this would carry a ton of time for Shannon Stillwell, just this alone. So it's not just, okay, a count that he could be convicted on because jury thinks gun, yes, check the box. It would have been many, many years because he's a recidivist. This carries time. Like, this is not a joke. Okay, hold on. Okay, let's look at the original indictment. Let's see. I think this is the original. So, saying it out loud, we are looking at the old indictment. Let's go down to 52. Old indictment, old indictment, old indictment. Because that's been very confusing in this trial. Okay, so let's see. You know, if I take a screenshot real quick, I can probably put this side by side for comparison. Well, let's just see. Let me pull it separately. This is definitely a longer paragraph. So, in count 52, Shannon Stillwell is charged with the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, previously convicted of felony involving the use or possession of a firearm. Again, it's 133. For the said accused in the county of Fulton and the state of Georgia on the 14th day of March. And this is where we get a change. Go Jim R. Did possess was the original language. In the I mean, this is the new language. The original indictment says, after having been convicted of felonies involving the use or possession of a firearm in an indictment that was mentioned, they actually include here in the Superior Court of Fulton County, Georgia, for the offense of possession of marijuana with intent to distribute and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So here we have this difference here. Here we have this difference. They actually list this out from the 10th day of March in 2016. And then this was the second indictment. I mean, second indictment mentioned in the current indictment that we just looked at. And this is different too. So the current one just says possession of a firearm by convicted felon, contrary to the laws of said state, the good order, peace, and dignity thereof. But the original YSL indictment says did possess or have within arm's reach of his person a firearm during the commission of a crime against or involving the person of another, to wit, the murder of Shamel Drakes, a rival gang member, as alleged in count 49 of this indictment, contrary to the laws of said state, the good order, peace, and dignity thereof. Now, interesting, because this has never actually been tried separately. So, Jim, it looks like there was problems with the old one and they tried to fix it and still left it messy. Like, there's a problem here in this old indictment. This is the old indictment on the screen. But then there's also a problem in the current indictment because now we don't have the underlying felony that was being committed that's necessary, and a necessary element for 133. So let's go back, and this is now I'm pulling back up the current indictment, and I'll link both of these because I know it's, could be easier for you guys to pull up and look at on your own instead of on a screen. But holy moly. So here is the original language there. And I'll also put it over on X, a little easier to find. Okay, so that's on X if you want to grab it anytime. I think it's like a bit easier to read stuff over there than in a YouTube description. And then in the chat, I'm pasting current link, current indictment. And an old indictment. There you go. Yep. See, look how simple Jim lays it out. 133 requires that you possess a gun in the commission of a felony while also having been convicted of a felony in the past. So, yeah, that was definitely a big and apparent change there between the two. A whole mess. What else is new? What else is new with this trial, though? It's every day it's something new. And the thing is, like, there were several times I know Brian Steele really raised hell about this indictment being fatally flawed because there's no element of mens rea, right? There's nothing spelled out about that element in the indictment, about them knowingly doing something in furtherance of the conspiracy and of the gang. But Sharp mentioned, that this was subject to emotion, the same issue with at least count 52. Now, yep, Jim R. And Jim R, we got to find that stuff again. Guys, if you are not following, and again, we say Jim R here, but it's Happily Angry Lawyer over on X. We've looked at his analysis of the Mungtung plea deal and why there's an issue between the 16-11-131 and 133 for Mungtung, right? But he's found continuing issues with the Mungtung saga, including during the revocation hearing that we looked at, I don't know, that was like 4 weeks ago now, when the PO was reading his priors, she was reading stuff that a totally different Anthony Sledge did. So just a whole mess for several reasons. And just a ton, honestly, of research and advocacy here from Jim R. that I wish Fulton County would take note of. So one of those things, if you can not just go and check that out of curiosity, but if you're on X, if you use X and support and like that content, get it in front of more eyes, can make a big deal. Can make a big deal. So, and I promise you, Jim R. writes in a very entertaining way. You won't be bored. Explains things a lot better than me. So there's that, you guys. Again, I am a layperson. I am not a lawyer, but Count 52 looks super sus to me, just from what I've become familiar with understanding the difference between the statutes 131 and 133, largely in part because of reading what Jim has done for Antonio Sledge. So, and that's the thing, right? They're trying to cram everything in this RICO, but then rely on past charges, and now it doesn't look good that they had a chance to change the indictment. It's not like there was an error and they carried it forward and left it sitting there, which I'd argue is problematic because you hold defendants, you hold the convicted accountable when they don't notice an error, right? They did that with Mungtung. So even if it was accidental and they just copied and pasted and moved the same language forward and it was flawed, it would still be a fatal flaw in the indictment, right? But you had the time to change it. And it's still problematic. So what's the excuse? What's the excuse? So Judge Whitaker is going to take the, and I don't know if she was also talking about 63 or just mentioning, and maybe we can pull that up on the screen. We'll make use of Jim R's free billable hours here in the chat. Big appreciation to Jim R. Let's go to, which window did I have the current indictment in? Okay, this is the current indictment. The second one mentioned was 63, and I don't know if this is the same issue because they do say that previously, and this one applies to Diamante Kendrick, but it does say possession of firearm or knife during the commission or attempt to commit certain felonies, right? So I don't know if this flaw exists for count 63, but I don't know. I don't know. I still think there's an issue here with, was he knowingly, was he in possession, was he within arm's reach of these things when he wasn't in the house? So, I don't know. I think there might be a separate issue here. Not sure if the same one that applies to 52 counts. Oh, 64. So did Hilton speak wrong? Because she said 63 and 52. So yeah, this actually looks like the same problem, right? Maybe? Yeah, all right. So let me update on X quick because I was really confused. Like that whole time I was like staring off onto the side of the screen. I was trying to figure out what Hilton was talking about. Just piling onto the mess. Because she was shuffling through the papers when she was looking at the examples. I went back and replayed it to hear it twice because I was a little confused. So yeah. Yep, okay, Jim R, thank you. 64 is 100% flawed. It looks the same as 52, not during a commission of a felony. If anything, that's supposed to be charged as 131. So I think Hilton misspoke when she said 63 was at issue. So, and I think there's separate issues for 63, but maybe it's within the kin of the jury to decide and not just a fatal flaw in the indictment. Oh, man. This is just wild. Like, think about the resources that went into this trial and there's errors like this. Right? I'm not saying it's okay that like someone's possession charge that impacts their life. If there's a fatal flaw in that, I'm not trying to minimize that I'm not trying to say that that's not okay. But when you put additional effort to the scale of additional millions, entire teams, carts and carts and carts and carts and carts of paperwork, and you still have issues like this? Hello? Hello? And they're waiting on the jury. The jury wasn't all present at 10. And my bad. Big thank you to everyone in the chat today. Shout out to Anthony Samora hanging out with us today and also gifting 5 memberships. That was super nice. Big thank you. But the likes didn't come entirely for free. He says,